Hey, Jimbo, you ready for this deal?
Pull your hat down, Cody.
I'm going to crank her down.
Old stories like long-lost friends, rodeos and late-night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast, brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum and the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop. They're both located in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Don't forget about Shorty's Cowboy Hattery. Also, new sponsor, Shorty's Cowboy Hattery, over there in the Oklahoma City Stockyard. Call old Shorty up, get your head measured, get a custom-made hat, one of the best in the business. Hey, it's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo Historian himself, pretty much an expert on everything, seems like. I rode over here with him. He was telling me about all kind of crazy facts that I never heard before.
Useless information, mostly. I've got a whole head full of useless information.
We drive by a place, oh, that's old such and such place, blah, blah, blah. Well, Jimbo Snively. Morning, Jimbo. We're not in Pawhuska today. Where are we at? Who are we talking to?
Hey, Cody boy, it's a great day in Osage, man. And we're just barely outside the Osage.
Right on the line.
Right on the line at Mock Brothers Saddlery, one of the most famous saddleries in the United States, really, and the oldest one in Oklahoma. And it's been run by 3 generations of brothers, and we've got one of the brothers that's running it now, in Brett Mock. And we're going to find out all about him, all the history, tons of history here. Y'all just see this place.
I just looking around at all the photos in here. I see an autographed picture of Ben Johnson right now looking up there.
I mean, when you go back, you're talking about going back to 1941, and you're taking in that's a long time. That's 84 years, if my math's right.
Something like that, Jimbo.
Something like that, anyway. But anyway, Brett, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Well, has it always been here, or has it moved?
No, sir, we moved here in December 76. We were at the original Tulsa Stockyards, just about 5 or 6 miles down the highway there.
I see.
On the east side of Sand Springs.
Right.
And they closed in 76, and we moved out here. Of course, all of our cowboy trade was to the west at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been here longer than I've been alive, Jimbo.
I know it.
So, yeah, been here a day or two now.
Yeah. Well, tell us who started this outfit and how it got started.
Well, my great uncles started it in 41. Grandpa and Uncle Claudy were cowboying up in the Osage and just across the border there in Kansas. And my great uncle Archie had a truck accident and paralyzed him from the waist down. And so with the insurance money from the wreck, they started a saddle shop. Claude had learned to build saddles and started a saddle and boot shop. And Uncle Claude took care of the books and done tooling and stuff that he could do in a wheelchair and whatnot. And just to help Grandma Mock out and Claude started it to do that. So that's what kind of got it started, and it just kind of grew from there. Didn't have the clothing, didn't have the hats.
Sure.
It was just mainly harness and saddles and stuff.
For working cowboys
Working
mostly.
cowboys, just strictly working cowboys. So
What ranch did they work for up in Osage? Do you know?
Claude was on the Cottings
Okay.
and several others up there, and no, I can't
Yeah,
call it
right.
now. I'm sorry. Spec, I think, up there. They were, Grandpa worked for them. They were just on up the hill, going up the hill from out of Pawhuska there, and they were up there. Well, that's where he lived. They were up there at 4 Acre is where Dad went to school. So
Wow.
that's where it was. I'm sorry, I get my stories crossed. I'm sorry. But anyway, so they were up there for several years. And then Claude was typical cowboy. Dad had a fairly big family with Grandpa and 6 kids, and Claude had 2 girls, I think, at that time. And so Claude moved around quite a bit. He'd stay 4 or 5 years at one place and then go to another, and just typical cowboy deal, just kind of drift a little bit. So, but that's where they kind of got their start, and Claude learned to build saddles and boots up there too. And so he came down here and went to work. And funny story on the boots, he went to the bank. Dad's told me this story, and he went to the bank and was having to borrowed $50 to get a pair of boots and material to build them. Well, it took him about a year and a half to pay that back to the bank, and he said, "I'm not building any more boots. There's no money in it at all." So he quit. We still got some of his boot making stuff back there, but he never built any boots after that. Yeah, it took him forever to pay the bank back $50.
Wow.
So
You know, there's been so many great makers get their start up there in the Osage. You know, we got John Israel. We have part of the Mock Brothers dynasty. You know, Oscar Crockett Bit and
Yeah,
Spurs. His
Crockett.
first shop was right across the street from the museum. You know, just so many great makers through the years. Some of the most iconic names
Blucher.
in Blucher Boots was in Fairfax.
yes,
For the majority of its life. You know, started off in Cheyenne, moved to right across the line in Kansas, Olathe, and then finally landed in Fairfax, and then down in Bixby or something. But they were in Fairfax the longest. You know, it just it's pretty remarkable that so many great makers either landed in that area or kind of cut their teeth in that area.
It's cowboy country,
It's true cowboy country.
for sure. Those big ranches.
Yep, big ranches,
But-
biggins.
Well, how have the saddles changed since then?
mainly styles, and of
Styles.
course the trees and the fit have evolved with the horses. You know, before, back, they weren't 6 inches wide across the top of the wither there, and now you're pushing 7. So and you can pretty much look at a saddle and say, well, that one was built in 1920s, that one was built in the 30s and
Really?
40s and 50s, and then even today's modern saddles, you can still distinguish between the 80s and the 2000s or 2020s. So just as the competition and the rodeo end of it and the cowboy side of it, as it evolves, you know, everything becomes more adapted to each sport that you're doing, to where, you know, you might have a barrel racer riding the same saddle her dad was, the old Bob Crosby trees back in the 40s that he was calf roping out of, you know, and didn't make any difference. You just put it on and rode it, and that's what they done. Well, now you couldn't have a barrel racer ride a.
He's right about
Weapon
those old
saddle.
saddles, Jimbo. We have some, you know, early relics in the museum, and they were some little saddles. It seems like even the bits back then were smaller in stature. Part of them, like the horses overall, were just quite a bit smaller back when, you know, before they started having competition on them and stuff.
Right.
Just your old ranch horses, old trail horses. I guess they weren't made like the horses nowadays.
Totally different animals. And you might have done 2 or 3 things on one horse, even when we were kids. You didn't have, you had a horse that was good, but he wasn't necessarily specialized in each event on the amateur side. Now on the professional side, kind of a little different deal, but for local people, it was more everybody done everything on one horse and might not even change saddles. You just got on and went. So,
Right.
But on the same hand, a lot of the equipment that we use today at our house are bits and stuff from the 40s and 50s because they just don't make stuff like they used to, I don't guess.
No,
even
they
the best
don't.
makers going, I don't feel like can compare to some of the old stuff that we have that we still use on a daily basis. So
They still work.
and they still work, yeah.
For
They
sure.
still work just like they're supposed to.
yeah, the bits are evolved a lot since then too. So
For sure.
Talking about Crockett, he might have had a good handful that everybody used, and now there's just hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Heck, there's my wall of bits is about like anybody's tack room now. They got one for each horse or whatever. They're just hundreds of them. So.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still using an old solid port Crockett, one of the old forged ones, made out of steel, not that silver plated stuff or
Chrome plated or stainless steel.
Stainless steel or aluminum is nothing
sticking
like
your
that.
tongue to an ice cube, but sticking it in his mouth. But
We got an old catalog there in the museum, and he made steel caps to put on the heels of your boots.
Oh,
Can you
yes.
imagine walking
Yeah.
around nowadays with a
Yeah.
steel cap on your boot?
Yeah, keep from wearing the heels down.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays, as much concrete is out there, I would have to assume that it would be dangerous to walk around with the steel heel cap on your
They
boot.
could hear you coming, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
I'd have to. I couldn't stand up, because I've had the nails just come through on the heels of my boots before and bust my rear walking across something.
Yeah, they didn't have as much concrete back then.
No,
So,
no, they sure didn't.
Yeah, wood floors.
When y'all started in the Tulsa Stockyards, was it a community like a lot of stockyards, like the Fort Worth Stockyards or the Oklahoma City Stockyards? Or was there saddle makers there and boot makers there? And was the Stockyards different than it is now here in Tulsa?
There was not necessarily a full community. Now, everybody that worked there, between the commission men and the yard men, and then there was a restaurant there, and even a hat maker was down there at one time. So you had several tradespeople there, but everybody knew everybody. Back in those days, I remember when I was young, the commission men would come in and get a pair of jeans or a hat or something, a pair of boots, and they'll say, well, just write this down and I'll be in, next week and I'll pay you, So
Right.
there was a lot of credit, I remember, back then. But people didn't have credit cards. I don't remember a credit card machine really till we moved out here in the mid-'70s, really, honestly. So
When I was a kid, I don't even seem like they had machines. They took like an imprint of your credit
Yes,
card.
Yeah, I remember that.
Put it
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
bunch of receipt papers
Right.
and it imprinted your credit card, and they
Yeah.
kept a copy of it.
yeah,
and
that's what we
sent
had
you
here.
off with a copy of it.
Yeah, that's what we
Now
had
you
here
can just
for
wave a
years.
credit card at something, and it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I know you can.
I'm not even smart enough to get
You
gas.
just wave it in the air and it'll take your money
I
now.
know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, just tap your phone if you want.
Was
Yeah, on your phone. My wife
Yeah.
can pay with stuff with her watch she wears. She just taps the watch on something.
Tap pay, yeah.
I'm still a fan of cold hard cash myself.
haven't got any, but I'm a fan of it.
I'm a fan of it. That's what I meant. If I
Right.
I still don't mind. I have people come into the store to this day. They're like, "Do y'all take cash?" I'm like, "Do we take cash?
Yeah.
Come on, baby."
Yeah,
Yeah.
got to see some ID with it, but we'll take it.
They have to hold it up and look at it.
Yeah, yeah. They got to
Yeah.
put this marker across it, put a yellow line on it. Or
You know
whatever.
what's always cracked me funny? I used to go to Vegas a lot, and you could hand them a bunch of $100 bills to buy in or bet on a football game. And they just take them, not even pay any attention to them. You take a $100 bill to Walmart, boy, they look it up in the light and they scratch on it with something. I wonder why that is.
Well, it must be easier to make them nowadays.
Well, I know, but why isn't Vegas worried about it?
They got more money.
Go
Yeah.
buy it.
They know they're going to get all that money anyway.
Yeah, they
Right,
got
I
more
guess,
money.
I
so.
guess.
Not very many people leave there with good
Right.
feeling about how they
They'll
gamble.
just take it all the good ones
Yeah.
and the bad ones. They don't care.
Yeah, they filter that in.
They ain't got time to do that, Jimbo. They
I
want to
guess-
get it
yeah,
raked
that's
in there
true. I
and
guess that's
shove it
it.
in with that little deal through that crack.
Right.
Got more
For
money.
sure.
So,
Was old Sheffield still here then?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know when Sheffield started, but yes, they were a major employer down here
Right.
for a long time.
Now they're not Sheffield anymore, are they?
They shut it plain
They're not
down.
even there
No, we got a Chick-fil-A and Olive Garden there
Is that
now.
right?
So yeah, it's dozed and gone. So
Man, I haven't been down this way in a long time.
I think Sand Springs used to be one of the per capita one of the most industrialized towns per capita in the states for a long time. I mean, they had box factories, they just a cotton mill. They had all kinds of stuff. They were really cutting edge for a long time. Of course, all of it's gone now.
You can tell when you get off the main road and kind of drive back through there. There was a lot of industry right
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
all the way to the refinery down there. I
Yes.
feel like.
Yeah, it was just lined with stuff. They even had old shotgun houses that they put the workers up in and everything through there. There's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
So
Was that 4-lane here when you guys moved the shop here, or was it just a 2-lane
no,
highway?
they had just built it.
Really?
Yeah, we had moved out to our house place just up the road a little ways there. But anyway, we'd moved out here in 1970, and they were working on it. And when we moved out here in '76, they had just got it opened up and going probably a year or two, so it was brand new.
Right.
Yeah.
How did saddle tree makers used to make a saddle tree? What all went into that? The old way they made it, and can you tell us how they're making them now? How it's changed?
Yeah. Before, and they still use a lot of it, but it has changed a lot because it's become more industrialized machinery and stuff. But yeah, they'd take the best wood would be pine, and so they'd take the pine wood and they'd build a mold of the tree bars, which there's several different patterns on your tree bars, and then they had a cutout machine that they'd run over the mold, and it would cut 2 or 3 bars at a time or 4 bars at a time. And so you had a right and a left bar, and then the swell and the cantelback. And so they'd cut them out in pine, and then they would take green rawhide from the packing houses and stuff. They'd bring them in, and while it was still green, never dried, never re-wet, just still green. And then a lot of it out in New Mexico, Arizona, out that way, where they had a lot of ladies were in on that, and they would take and fit them green hides and trim them up and then hand lace them all on around that tree, so it was very labor intense. And then they'd put them in a dry room, and the green hides would shrink more than if you took a piece of rawhide that had already been dried and then re-wet. The green ones shrunk a lot more and would get tighter. And that's how they went. Now they got fiberglass, they've got plastic mold injected, and then the fiberglass is kind of still got way better laser type machines that they go out and they might cut 10 or 15 tree bars and stuff at a time now. And then they'll take fiberglass and lay in there and then rosin it and put the resin in, put them in a heat dry machine. And the fiberglass is really, really stout. Don't hardly break it anymore. So on ours, we fiberglass the tree bars. That's the weakest point, right where your stirrup leather goes over. That's the narrowest point and the weakest point. And we'd fiberglass the tree bars and then rawhide cover it, still hand laced. You know, my trees will run probably $800 for just the tree. A lot of your factory saddles will get, $200-300 trees, and that's cheap. Now they used to be $100, but everything's gone up quite a bit. but even they are going to fiberglass now. Still cheaper than hand lacing. Can't get the workforce in there to hand lace it now. So it's still pretty labor intense on the trees.
Yeah, I would think that saddle trees always seem like a very labor intensive
Yes.
thing to build, and complicated too. Honestly, they look very complicated to build and to make it where it's going to fit a horse's back.
Yeah,
right?
that's the deal. You can have it, because they're loose. You got 4 pieces of loose wood that you're lacing together, So you tack them and set them, nail them in, and then as you're lacing them and that rawhide's drying, you got to make sure your bars ain't warping and everything. So it's pretty complicated on getting it to dry even. There's a lot of tricks which I couldn't even start to tell you because I couldn't build a tree. But yeah, you'd have as much time in it as it would take to build a saddle. So that'd be quite a bit in that deal. So drying time, and that's a lot of your saddle making's drying time. So that's part of that deal there.
How do you choose a saddle, the right one to fit your horse?
To choose a saddle to your sport, or choose a saddle to fit your horse? To fit your horse.
That'll go along with any sport, I would assume.
You're right. So, but mainly now, on the fit, you'd probably 75-80% of the saddles will fit 75-80% of the horses. It's still pretty good. Back years ago, like we were talking earlier, you just put a saddle on your horse and you rode off. Very seldom did you ever worry about hurting one's back in the 40s or 50s and stuff. Back then, you just took off. It didn't mean a whole lot on that. Of course, they weren't heavy muscled. They weren't thick backed. They didn't have, they were all just pretty raw boned horses. So, but now, if you've got a problem, and this is how most of ours come in, they've got a problem, so the saddle they're riding is not fitting. So from that point, you'd have to take and look at the horse's back and look at the saddle they're using, try to get some measurements and focus on the horse's back and what's going on there. And then most of the problem now is they're so heavy shouldered, and the shoulders run pretty far back past their withers in there, and that seems to be most of the hard fits now, to get over that shoulder, and they're just 7 inches wide at the gullet, and that blade runs back up under the tree bar there, and the shoulder blade, and you just it's just a big hassle to get up over it, to keep it fitting. And then you build one to fit that horse, and then they take it home and crippled him or sold him, and then you get a phone call, well, this ain't fitting my horse, 6 months later, and you're going, what'd you do? Oh, no, I got rid of that horse. I'm putting it on this other one. So, well,
Yeah, I heard an old saddle maker one time on a podcast or YouTube or something. He said he hated to do that, make customized saddles, because soon that horse is going to die, and here you got a saddle out there with your name on it that won't fit nothing.
Yeah.
So he didn't like doing that.
Yeah.
What is it about a cowboy that you can have the best horse you ever had, and one day you'll just get a hair in your rear and you'll price him to someone and sell him for no particular reason when you probably should have kept the booger till he died.
Yeah.
Swapped him off.
Because you can never. They're very hard to replace when you find a good one. If you've rode quite a few good ones, it doesn't seem like it, but until you go to try to replace him, then
it makes it tough.
Who knows how many you're going to run through.
I'm guessing you and your brother probably grew up in the saddle shop?
Yes, sir. Grew up here since we were kids.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just grew up here.
I read somewhere that your dad didn't mind you cutting yourself, but just don't get any blood on the saddle.
Don't bleed on the leather. That's the number one saddle maker's rule. That's the first thing you lead. If you cut yourself, bleed on the floor, but don't bleed on the leather, because it ruins it.
Right.
Yeah, it won't wipe off. So, yeah, that's the first thing you learned. So,
Every saddle maker has a trademark on their tooling. You know, like up there at King's, they have the Sheridan flower, and some others have some others. What's some of you guys' trademarks on your tooling?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
We had our flowers when we started, and Uncle Claude was the first one and the main tooler, and so we kind of copied his flower from there. And where he got it, I don't know. Nobody thought to ask him, where'd you learn this at or anything. And then the Westmoreland's built for us since the 50s. And, of course, they come out of Pawhuska up there. So the Westmorelands had their own flower. And, matter of fact, Buck, his flower is identical to the Westmorelands. Matter of fact, Charlie had to show him how to do it because they sold the Buck up there. And so you could look at Dad's saddles and Uncle Claude's saddles, and they pretty much had the same flower on them. And then anything that the Westmoreland made had the Westmoreland flower on it. And so, they're nothing special like King's. I mean, that guy's a phenomenal tooler. They're good. And but you could look at what we grew up with here in Oklahoma and tell the flowers difference. And I said, like Buck's too, you could look at his and know that there's a Westmoreland flower that Buck had tweaked just a little bit.
Is that Jack Buck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew him well.
Yeah. So
He was a saddle maker back in Pawhuska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a long time, actually.
Long time.
We have some leggings of his and I think a saddle of his in the museum.
Yeah. Westmorelands had sold out in the 50s and moved down to Leonard, down in that area, and went to work for Grandpa then. So they were third generation, had Charlie, Leon, and Dale. So they'd been with us a long, long time. So
I'm looking around here. This is not just a saddle shop. This is a full-fledged Western store with a saddle shop in it.
yeah, Grandpa would be surprised if he'd seen it. He died in '64, so yeah, can you imagine coming from a little old, I don't know how big that shop was. It wasn't very big. You could probably put it in a quarter of this or something, but it wasn't very big, yeah. He'd be amazed now.
Kind of what I'm getting at here is, if you think about it, every town used to have a Western store or two, saddle shop, but besides Cavender's and Boot Barn and places like that, there's not very many locally owned Western stores left in the United States at all. There's one in Pawhuska, Osage Outfitters, and then we have Mock Brothers here, but I'm just really racking my brain. They've about pushed out all the small mom and pop type Western stores in the whole country. And I understand that, Wrangler wants to sell, would rather sell 10,000 pair of jeans to one guy rather than 300 or whatever. But how have you guys survived in this Western store business all this time? And you got everything: hats, boots, spurs, bits, bridles, you name it. You have it here.
Just
the good stuff too.
Living off a cowboy wage.
Yeah.
Is half of it. You got to know your limitations. But yeah, none of this is high dollar or money making. I mean, you make a living. It's just a living. So you just live off of your means and go on. But to keep it going and bringing people in is just kind of word of mouth. I don't do Boot Barn advertising. It's just, I treat you right and you tell your neighbor and treat the neighbor right. And that's just kind of what's kept us surviving and knowing what's going on. We know our profession and that's what we do. I mean,
it just seemed like you guys are a dying breed. There's just not very many. That's not a huge corporation. Western stores left anywhere.
No, there's not.
Period.
No, they're trying to push it.
I feel like maybe Paul's in Henrietta, if it's still open.
He's still there, yeah.
And then
Gail
you guys right here, Mock Brothers, right off of 412, just west of Tulsa. I mean, and that place in Osage Outfitters in Pawhuska. I mean, they're just.
It's a short
I can't
list.
think of 10 Western stores
that are
that
small.
are they're owned by the people that run them.
Yeah, no, it's tough, and it's like a dairy. Nobody wants to work 6 to 7 days a week, all day long, every day, and if you ain't there to do it, then it don't get done. So, just the commitment to that and the way of life and taking care of people.
It almost seems like you guys it'd be hard for y'all to get anything done back there in the saddle shop because you got people in here visiting you every day, and they all want a little piece of your time. And
Greg spends a lot of time here after work, I promise you. So, and that's why we don't build saddles here. It's got to be Dad, Grandpa, everybody. Nobody. Westmoreland's built at their house because you can't. You put it down and then come back and screw it up, and you've thrown $150 out, and there went your profit.
Yeah.
So, no. But it does. You got to spend a lot of time down here after hours.
who's some of the celebrities y'all have built some saddles for? You had to build for Johnny Lee Wills and those guys, I would think.
We, I don't know if we
Maybe Ben Johnson even.
built Johnny Lee Wills' saddle. We used to take care of his all the time. Now, Bob Wills, we built 4.5 for.
Even better, really.
Yeah.
Where did he live down in here? He had a place in.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Kind of before
It's
me.
probably a shopping center now, wherever it
there ain't
was.
no telling. But they were friends, and he'd play at Cane's and Uncle Claude and then would go out there and visit with him and dance and whatnot. And so they were pretty tight, pretty good friends. And so Bob Wills, and like I was telling earlier, we built Reba's dad rebuilt his 58 world champion saddle. Now, Ben would come in, and Dad and them would visit with him quite a bit. But I don't recall building him a saddle. Now, we could have. I just don't recall. But he did get one of them bits off the wall in old Kelly or something and take it out and ride it around in a movie or two. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I'd like to have it back one of these days, but it probably won't happen now. So
We got a couple of his old bits there
Yeah.
at the museum, but probably not the one he got from
no
here.
telling, no telling where it went.
You did something with Brooks and Dunn or something. What was that?
Yeah, Ronnie Dunn's from Tulsa.
Right.
And so after they got big and famous, Ronnie didn't call, I don't think, but his production manager or whatever called down. Yeah, Dad's built them 2 sets of guitar straps for both of them. Yeah, pretty neat. And then after Ronnie and Brooks split up, Dad built Ronnie just a single guitar strap tooled and dyed black and everything. So, yeah, it's pretty good. We get quite a few through, So there's a bunch of people that's been through. Well, just like Bruce and Ford and Bob Logue, and there's a ton of rodeo people that used to come through. It seems like not as many of them come drifting through the last 10 or 12 years.
Right.
But, Duval, I mean, you'd get everybody. Duval's come through all the time, headed to a rodeo with the trailer load people and get a new hat, headed to Woodward or Guyman or
All you rodeo people get over here and gives the Mock Brothers some business. They hadn't seen y'all in 10 or 12 years. Where y'all at?
yeah. So the younger crowd don't seem to come through as much as the older guys.
Yeah.
So
They're ordering all their stuff through the mail on these
I
young
guess,
people.
yeah,
I still
Amazon.
got to look at it and see what it looks like and make sure what it is before I buy it.
Is the leather as good as it used to be, or better, or about the same? Or
we are still buying our main leather for what we build here and the saddles and everything from Herman Oak, which they've been in business a long, long time. And it's American made. And
Are they out of Missouri or
yes,
somewhere?
yes.
Yeah, it's one of the most famous name in leather besides
Yes.
maybe Tandy Leathers.
And that's just a retail store. So, but Herman Oak has been in business for a long time, and it's still really, really good leather. I think the EPA and the chemical changes that they do in it over the years, it just seems like it's a little harder to cut and to tool and stuff. But it's still some of the best leather you can buy.
That dang EPA, they used to put mercury in cowboy hats.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
those
the hat market when they took that out.
Well,
I
those old
promise you.
hats, they're still the best hats, really. I mean, like a 20X or way back when, or a 30 was heads and tails above these 100Xs now. But.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you couldn't even touch a 100X now. But yeah, the Resistol Diamond Horseshoe was a 15X.
Yeah.
All of our cowboys there in the Osage wore 'em, everybody, and they'd buy one fall and work in the other one, and then swap it out, and then buy another one, and just keep swapping them out. Oh yeah, some of the best hats you could ever get right there. And had we known that it's going to change that formula, I'd have had me a stack of them back there. But hindsight,
Do you wear a felt hat every day?
every day.
I wear a felt hat too.
Yeah.
This old guy, Daryl Barron, he used to work for Copenhagen, but he was the shoot boss at Cheyenne. And I was working for Copenhagen. I had a straw hat on at the time. And he said, I don't hire people that wear straw hats or smoke cigarettes. You're either taking a break to smoke a cigarette or chasing your hat down.
Your hat. And that's why I don't wear a straw hat.
And I that day I went to a felt hat, and I wear one year round now, and
yeah.
I prefer a felt hat year round.
I owned one for 2 weeks, and I had some yearlings scattered out and down here. And of course, it's a little brushier than it is in Pawhuska.
My place is pretty brushy.
Mine too.
And you couldn't ride by a tree without your hat getting flipped off, and I never lose my hat. And so anyway, I had one out and I was gathering it up, and I lost my hat right off the bat. Got the cow gathered up and went back to try to find my hat because I knew Dad'd be mad at me. I didn't come back with my hat, Took me 30 minutes. It's getting dusky dark, and 30, 40 minutes I'm out there looking for this hat because I was scared I was going to get in trouble. And I finally found it. And I come back, and I never went back out with it. I put my felt back on and pulled it down, and I couldn't tell. It didn't have vent hose back in the early 80s, late 70s. Didn't have vent hose in them. If you was lucky, you had a couple eyelets. Well, it wasn't any cooler than the felt hat I was wearing. You're still just as hot, I thought. So I just put my felt back on and never looked back. Of course, if you don't know any different, it don't make any difference.
And when I was a kid, I'd get me a new Bangora every summer.
Yeah, $25 back then.
It seemed like
22.
I was mad at my wife when she spent over $30 on a pair of Wranglers for me the other day. I was like, "What are you doing?" She said, "Honey, they don't make those $29 Wranglers anymore." I said, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, $29.95.
How old am I?
Days gone by now.
But you guys do got a great selection of straw hats back there, and there's some good ones too. It looks like.
I sell a bunch of hats. That's one of them. Besides the saddles and tack, they come to get their hats shaped. And
well, to be honest with you, you can't even find a hat when you're looking for one nowadays. And I see you guys got a whole pile of them.
I got bunches of them.
When I went to go buy a new hat here a few months ago, I could not find one anywhere, and I'm embarrassed I didn't come down here. But
well, now you know.
Now I know.
Yeah.
Now I know. This is my one-stop shop from now on. I'm buying a saddle from them in a minute for Daisy.
Yeah.
So,
1941, I'm sure you catered to mostly real cowboys. Now I'm sure it's a lot of weekend warriors and wannabe cowboys.
Yeah.
How's that changed it?
Wide diversity on that now. A lot of rodeo cowboys, of course.
Still.
Anywhere from bareback riders to barrel racers to bulldoggers and team ropers and calf ropers. So you get a lot of that from amateur to pros. And a lot of trail riders now. So I got a lot of women love to trail ride. So you cater to that quite a bit. But yeah, from the old days, they was all just mainly, especially since Grandpa and Claudia come out of the Osage. I mean, that was.
What about the TV show Yellowstone? Did you see a pickup after that?
Yes, that's part of the reason why you can't find a hat anywhere.
Yeah, so, well, best problem the Western industry's ever had.
That and the Dagburn went blank. The back in the 80s.
Urban Cowboy. Right.
That one drove it up too.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yellowstone's done good. Big market on the hats and boots and stuff on that really helped do that. And then COVID came on at the same time. And it, just my redneck opinion, it just seemed like, okay, we can't go to town, we can't do this, can't crowd up. Let's go to Grandma and Grandpa's and dust off the saddle and get the horses out and go do this, or go buy 20 acres, which land's jumped tremendously. So, and put a little barn up and get a horse and stuff. So that Yellowstone's drove that quite a bit. So
the difference between in Yellowstone and Urban Cowboy. Yellowstone, I don't even know how many seasons, how many years it's ran. So it's more than a fad. I feel like Urban Cowboy, it came and went, but this Yellowstone has really lingered around and helped the Western industry considerable. I mean, no matter what you think of it, it's helped the bottom line of everybody that's in business in the Western world.
yes, yeah,
So
yeah.
and heck, I like the show. It's entertaining,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
but
not a whole lot of it's.
well, it'd be kind of boring or risky to put it what it's actually like to be out there. I mean,
Right.
some stuff the public don't need to see, and some stuff's just boring. I don't care. I don't care what you do.
Building fence all day is
Yeah.
not much fun.
Yeah, that's right.
Picking ticks and
I had this tick deal's crazy.
They're worse this year than I've ever remembered.
Listen, I had one on my forehead, bare skin, not in my hairline or nothing, just the other day. And then I found one between my two fingers the other day. They're just
it's awful. It gives me the willies anymore.
I believe it's worse spring. And when it gets real hot, they'll kind of slow down a little bit. But back when it was mild and wet, they were everywhere.
Yeah, I'd never had a tick stick to my forehead, on the plane.
Generally, it's
maybe in my eyebrow or something. Usually,
it's
it's somewhere near some hair, and this was just plain Jane skin on your forehead.
Yeah, they're bad. I got one of my older cowboy buddies. He swears it's the deer. That
I don't know.
Well, I got a horse at the house right now. I can't even put a bridle on the booger because I got to put it on like a halter because
his ears full.
His ears are full of ticks, and I've doctored him and stuff. But I just never seen ticks so bad in a horse's ear either.
They're bad. Yeah, not like when we were kids. That's for sure.
I don't know. I'm just, when that one stuck to my forehead, I said, "This is a different breed of ticks than I've ever." It was a big one too.
They're hungry.
I don't even think I got that much blood going to my brain the way I act most
You have
times.
to eat some more garlic or something.
Well, you got any? Is there any more sets of brothers coming on? Going to take this over?
I don't know. My oldest boy's a lawyer by trade, so he's kind of in the oil and gas business. And my youngest boy, I just got 2, but yeah, he's still in the military, so he'd been there 8 years. So I don't know. Who knows? So right now it's just me and Greg. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are going to last a while.
We still got a few years left in us.
This is such a cool place.
Oh,
man.
it's wonderful. Unbelievable.
Yeah, still got
The rodeo history here. I mean, every major
There's an
cowboy.
NFR jacket right there.
Oh, yeah.
Every major cowboy coming down the pike
Or
stopped
PBR.
here.
Yeah, pretty much. I
Pretty
mean,
much.
if they were in this area, they knew who we were.
I'm sure Jim Shoulders and them came here. some.
Yeah. Jim knew Dad and the family. Yeah. So, yeah, they've all been here. They all know where I'm at.
Sure.
So Duval's from Sakota and anybody and everybody.
Right.
Yeah, that's
He's mentioning all the heavy hitters there.
yeah.
Right.
that is Chris Littlejohn's jacket.
Yeah.
So and then there's Austin Myers got a full display over there.
Yeah, he was a PBR champion.
PBR.
Southern Oklahoma, I believe.
So that's his Cheyenne Frontier Day saddle. But yeah, anybody and everybody for a long time come through. So
You guys buy and sell any old saddles here? Or? I know you got a nice variety back there.
we got old as antique type stuff, or like the 30 and the 40s and the 50s, those type of saddles we don't really trade on anymore. Kind of bypass them unless it's something special. But and the deal on them, they got a 14-inch seat with a 36-inch outseam leg on them, and the little kid can't ride it, and the adults can't ride it because the seat's too short, and then the fenders are way too long for the little kid, and so there's just not much you can do with those anymore. So, and then they either want a barrel or a roper or a team roper or a calf roper or something. So we've kind of shied away from those type. Now the old highbacks, if we can get those traded on and they're not rotting out, that's the deal now. They've been around so long that most of them's so rotted, that there are not too many of them left now. So
It seems like you have a saddle over there for sale for about anybody. You got kid saddles, roping saddles, barrel saddles.
all kinds.
I don't even know how many saddles over there. A couple hundred saddles.
Yeah, there's probably at least three.
New, used,
Yeah,
antique.
300 in here.
Wow.
Pretty easy. So
No doubt about it.
yeah.
Wow. This place is just really unbelievable.
Very impressive.
It's just west of Tulsa.
Easy to get to.
I guess Sand Springs, Pulp area.
Sand Springs.
Sand Springs, right on Highway 412. It's a major highway, turns into a turnpike on up the road.
Yeah, headed towards Cleveland. Yeah.
Headed towards Cleveland and Stillwater. Couldn't.
Or if you're coming from Pawhuska, headed towards Tulsa.
That's right. That's right. All roads lead to Mock Brothers. That's,
There you go.
That's for sure. All roads lead to Mock Brothers. Hat, belt, anything, jeans. We got to keep doing business with our local people,
Yeah, right.
with the people that are living by the sword, dying by the sword right here,
Putting in the time,
putting in the time. So
like Brett said, like working on a dairy.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's every day.
I have heard a lot of guys through the years tell me that's the worst job they ever had was working on a dairy.
Those cows got to be milked.
Twice a day, don't they?
Twice a day, every
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Oh, Robin Bland said working on a chicken farm was pretty close to working on a dairy. Pretty bad deal.
I had never been on one of those, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a podcast with Robin one of these days and have him tell us about his life on the chicken ranch because he had to do it anyway. Well, if you were building a Mount Rushmore of saddle makers, who would you put on there? 4 names.
Ooh. Well,
Your dad might be one.
yeah, Dad and Uncle Claude built a real good saddle for sure. So of course ours, and they're just built right. There's nothing spectacular. They just built them to last, and that's a fact. I
Good
mean,
material.
Yes.
Good craftsmanship.
Affordable.
Yeah,
All
and
that.
that's the other deal. That I still, I'm not overpriced by
Right.
no means.
How long is it? If I ordered a saddle today, how long does it take for y'all to make it?
We're probably still a little over a year out. So
Well, Billy Hogg down there, he's 8 years out,
Yeah,
I think. So
yeah.
he may not ever catch up with that list.
So, but him, Hogg built a real good saddle. Council built a real good saddle, for sure. And of course, going a few years back, you got Letty's down there, and so there's plenty of good saddle makers around. And like I said, each community or town, would have their own several years back. But Council built one right, for sure. And Billy Don builds a real good one too.
So we got the Mock Brothers. Who else we got on
Council,
Council.
Howard Council.
Howard Council.
Built a real good one. And Hogg, and then Letty's, Wendy Ryan's.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, they were all good. And not to be knocking anything down or anything, but the newer ones, time is the money. I mean, you figure up the hours and you're not even making $5 an hour building a saddle. You can pick up beer cans, make more money. but the new guys, as far as time wise, they use glue, good glue now. The stickiest stuff we put in ours is wallpaper paste. it's you stick it on. You got to let it dry. We cut ours out, fit it up, tool it, come back, fit it up, and then go to putting it back together. So you're building it twice. You got to cut it, fit it, pull it apart, tool it, put it back on, let it dry, go to the next step, and so on. And Ryan's, Letty's, and there's a ton of them that done it that way. I'm going too fast to remember all of them. And Howard Council and Hogg that builds a tremendous job on his too. And the rest of them build a good saddle. They just take the time out so they can make more money. So you're putting in glue, you cut it, stick it down, and you go on. You don't pull it back off. You don't let it dry and all that. They just kind of going a little faster. Not saying they're not any better, but
right.
It's just time.
It's got to be aggravated when you got one about tooled and you mess something up right at the very last. You ever done that?
There you go. Don't bleed on the leather. Depending on how bad you mess it up, but Dad said that's how good a craftsman you can tell how good the craftsman is on how good he can cover up his mistakes at the end of it. So, yeah, but it does. You can ruin one slip and you've thrown it all away and have to start over.
It has pretty much an unforgiving material you're working on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
and like you can just sand it back off and go back over it again.
Just pitch it and start over with a few cuss words.
Yeah. I would think so. What are you guys' hours when you're open here?
9 to 5, Monday through Saturday.
6 days a week, 9 to 5?
6 days a week, 9 to 5.
All right.
Do you ever like that cigar?
No, sir. I just chew on them.
Chew on.
Yeah.
Is that part of y'all's trademark?
No.
You both got a little cigar?
No, Greg don't. He don't chew any. So, but no, I quit Copenhagen when it got to $3.75 a can. I couldn't even tell you what it is now, but I said that's too expensive. I'm not chewing it anymore.
I think it's $10, $12, $20 in some states.
I don't know, and then I went to chewing on these little cigars and just a bad habit. I chew on a stick just as good, I guess. But
it looks cool. Yeah, I like it. Yep. I like it.
But I've never lit it. I couldn't tell you.
Couldn't
tell you what it tastes like lit. So.
Well, when I think about Oklahoma saddle makers, I think about Howard Council. I think about the Beaches.
Beaches. I say I went too fast.
And now
Charlie was a great.
Yeah.
I said
guy.
I always think about the Mock Brothers in there.
Yeah.
Just historic saddle makers.
Historic.
It's just it's amazing that they're still going today from 1941. Congratulations on all you guys.
Yeah. Thank you on that. Just
alligator skin to stay in this business so long.
Just got to keep your head down and keep going.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Keep chewing on that cigar.
Keep chewing on my cigar, so keep me going. But yeah. No, Charlie Bills was a good guy. Yeah.
And that Clark boy's still doing something down there.
Yes, he's still doing some. I've seen one or two of them. I don't know him like we did Charlie. Charlie would come visit, and everybody knew everything.
Right.
And him and Imogene, good people. Yeah.
For sure.
They sure were.
Well, Jimbo, you got anything else for him?
No,
today?
just thanks him for letting us sit in here, and use his place on that other podcast. And
we kind of had to corner him up to do it.
I know it well.
Greg's back there hiding out. He didn't want no part of this deal.
You can't get brother to talk on anything, so.
I know. I called and talked to him several times. He said, well, my brother might, but I don't think I'll do it.
Yeah, he's out. He's out. So.
Well, he's back there working.
He's working. Somebody's got to make money.
Somebody's got to do something around here.
That's right. So.
Well, we sure appreciate you taking some time out.
Well,
we know you're busy fellers. And,
thank you for coming out. So
I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but please get over here to Mock Brothers.
Yeah,
they don't need the business, but they could sure use it, no doubt about it.
We won't turn it away.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, I'd rather do business with my friends and people doing it the right way is some big corporation all day long, Jimbo. So,
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Get over here, get you a saddle, boots, hat, spurs, pants, ropes, you name it. Look at all their memorabilia up here. I mean, they have stuff from all kinds of movie stars and to me and Jimbo, these rodeo stars are just as big as any movie stars, and they got all the big names been through here. So
Yeah, I got
if you ain't been here yet, get here. If you ain't been here in a while, get back over here.
That's right.
Come see us.
Be sure and check out our new podcast, first and third Thursday of every month. And we got a new schedule, the first and third. We're not putting them out every single Thursday. And thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys.
Later.